week. This Sunday and next Sunday, we're bookending Valentine's Day, and we're going to talk about love. And we're not going to talk about love probably the way that you're used to hearing love talked about, and if you grew up in church. We're not going to do 20th century sermons. We do 21st century sermons here. And we talk the talk, and we say it the way it needs to be said, and we don't skirt around issues. And if you were kind enough to make sure your teenagers were here so that we could talk to them about love, first of all, I just want to say thank you, because let me just tell you guys something. I am a seasoned pastor. I'm reasonably educated. I'm experienced at speaking. I'm experienced at counseling. And I want you all to know I need a whole lot of help raising my daughter. I need you all to talk to her about things, and you can even say verbatim, word for word, what I have already told her. But if you will do it, it would really help me. Because you are all smarter than me. All of you all know more than I know. My daughter, by the way, is teaching today, and I told her she was in trouble. She ain't getting paid for anything today, and if you all tell her anything, if you repeat anything I've said in here today, I'm going to remind her that the reason you guys are at church, because you're all a bunch of liars and you need to get saved. I also want to tell you this. If you have kids in here, that means they are middle school or high school. And you don't ever have to worry about me saying anything up here that is going to shock them or surprise them. My sex talks will probably put them to sleep. Hannah was in middle school when she came home talking to me about her health class. And I said, well, what are y'all talking about? She said, sex. I said, well, tell me what you've learned about sex. She began to tell me the story about the little red wagon. No, that's a different story. Only you old guys know what I'm talking about there. It was a good one, though, wasn't it? Jeff knows what I'm talking about. The joy of the Lord. Isn't it something what can incite the joy of the Lord? Just the remembrance of a dirty joke, and suddenly I just feel the joy of the Lord. If you think your kids don't know what's going on, then you don't talk to your kids. I want to have conversations with them. You should already be having conversations about, and I'm not just focusing on kids. I'm focusing on us. American culture, we are messed up, man. We got to get some things back on track. I want to read to you a portion of a story today that I'm pretty sure I've used on Valentine's Sunday before, maybe even last year. I know I've used it a lot at our Marriage on the Rock workshops. It's a goodie. It's the story of Jacob. And most of you know the story of Jacob. He wanted the birthright and the inheritance, but his brother Esau came out of the womb first, so by custom and law, Esau got all the good stuff. Jacob, he and his mother deceived Isaac, got the birthright, and then got the blessing that couldn't be reversed. That's how powerful they believed their words were and how God would back their words. But now that he has done that, and he has found that there is a price tag to getting everything he wanted in life through the route of deceit, and he is afraid that his brother is going to kill him. And in fact, his brother, who was the hunter and the redneck of the family, probably was going to kill him. I think if I remember right, Esau also was a redhead, which meant his temper probably had some issues. Jacob takes off running. He's on the lam. He goes to a place called Haran. Haran was a town that his great-grandpa, actually Abraham's father, settled when he was on his way to Canaan. And it was actually Abraham's father. He did not make it all the way to Canaan. He settled in a place, he called it Haran, and it became a dry, desolate wasteland. And this little town still exists. And they still have relatives that live in this town. Jacob's mother, her family still lives in Haran. Her brother Laban lives in Haran. They are sheep herders. He has 2 daughters, Leah the older, Rachel the younger. and they are shepherds. And because it's a dry, barren place, there's not a lot of water. There is a well there. Jacob finds that well, and he sees that shepherds from all over the area are coming there at a certain time of the day, and they're removing the rock from the top of the well, keeping the water safe, clean, and from probably just evaporation. And they're coming at certain times of the day, and they're watering their sheep there. And the story picks up as he's on his way almost to Haran now to find his uncle Laban to see if the family will take him in because he has nowhere to go. And we pick the story up. Take that back off. I couldn't remember where I picked this back, where I started this, and I still don't remember. So let me tell you some more of the story. So Jacob sees Rachel. He finds out who she is. He finds out, in fact, Rachel is his cousin. She is there watering the sheep. He strikes up a conversation with her. He explains to her who he is. I'm your cousin, Jacob, and I have nowhere to go, and I'm just kind of hung out to dry. And Rachel goes home and tells her daddy, Laban, about Jacob. And the story picks up with Laban saying, go back and get your cousin and bring him here. Is that where the story picks up? Put that back up and we'll see. Yeah, then Laban said to him, you are my own flesh and blood. After Jacob had stayed with him for a whole month, Laban said to him, just because you are a relative of mine, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes. That is just not a good word. I don't know what was going on with translators, but the better word would be delicate. She had delicate eyes. I'm not even sure what that means, to have delicate eyes. It just sounds better than weak eyes. But Rachel was lovely in form. How many of you guys know when Coke first came out, they took the original Coke bottles off of the market after much protest from the church because the Coke looked too much like a woman's body, and they felt like it would incite lust inside of men while they were drinking Coke, and it would be subliminal. They wouldn't even be aware why suddenly they're lusting. True story. True story. Rachel was lovely in form and beautiful. Jacob was in love with Rachel. That's a loaded word, love. We're going to tear that apart the next couple weeks. And he said, I'll work for you 7 years in return for your younger daughter, Rachel. And all I can say is this woman had to have a hot body to work 7 years for her. And Laban said, well, it's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Yeah, we sure wouldn't want her to marry outside of the family, for example. I've always wanted a child with 2 noses and 3 eyeballs. Yeah, it's better that you marry her since you're her cousin. Ever since we moved here from McDowell County, we always wondered, where are we going to find Rachel? I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. I love McDowell County, man. Clinton's not here today, so I can pick on. Hey, we're all just having fun. Don't y'all post anything bad about me on Facebook. Give me a week off. It's better that I give her to you than to some other man. Stay here with me. So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days in because he was so in love with her. Doesn't that just get you right there? I know it's been 7 years, but it just seems like a few minutes. I love her so much. Moving on. Did I read that one? So Jacob served 7 years to get Rachel, but they seemed like only a few days to him because of his love for her. Is that where we ended at? Okay. So y'all know what happens, right? They plan a wedding, and Jewish weddings are not like our weddings, and so they have a feast, a wedding feast, and then that night, evidently in the dark, the man is in the wedding chamber, which has been built on to the wife's parents' house, and there's soft music playing and ambiance, and the bride is introduced into the wedding chamber, and they consummate the marriage. Do you know what I'm talking about? Consummate. Do I need to be more specific? Did the wild thing. Got their groove on. Slept together. Of course, it was custom that the older daughter should get married before the younger. So in the dark, Uncle Laban slipped the weak-eyed child under the tent curtain. I take it they got a little bit rowdy at these parties, and there was a lot of drinking going on. And I don't know how Jacob did not know, but he didn't know till the next morning when he probably sobered up that he had the wrong woman there with him. But it's consummated, and they're officially married now. And he's all upset. He goes to Uncle Laban and he says, "Yeah, you tricked me." It's like, how terrible that Jacob should ever be deceived. It's almost like you reap what you sow. He says, "Dude, I understand, I get it, but I love the one lovely in form more than the one with the weak eyes." And Uncle Laban said, "Well, fine. Work for me 7 more years and you can have her." This dude must have been in love, because he said, "Okay, I'll do it." He did immediately give him Rachel. He didn't make him wait 7 more years. He went ahead and gave Rachel to him as his wife, but then he worked 7 more years to pay for Rachel. 14 years he worked for this woman. Of course, I've been working 35 years for my woman, and she's still not paid for, so. Jacob, the Bible says, was in love because Rachel was lovely in form. You know, there's a lot of history that you guys don't know because it didn't get past the canonization of Scripture when the church leaders got together and they decided, we're going to canonize this, we're going to make this official Scripture, this doesn't make the cut. A lot of people don't realize that Jacob was the first original psalmist long before David was along, and Jacob wrote a lot of psalms which were songs that did not make canonization. In fact, he wrote his first psalm, his first song about Rachel and her being lovely in form. It was later put to music. It went a little something like this. Well, that's what Brick House means. That's the 70s version of lovely in form. We've got a classic story here of boy meeting girl. And there's a physical attraction. And they are drawn to each other. Boy meets girl. It's not the first story like that. The first story we have of boy meeting girl was Adam and Eve. Boy meets girl. And I just can't imagine what was going on in Adam's song. But you know, Adam was a psalmist and he wrote, no. Bible says that God created man in his image. Male and female, he created them. And they met, and when they met, they were very different. They were both out of God's image, male and female. You see, God is not male or female. God is God. And I know everybody gets all upset when these New Agers start calling God her and she and ma'am and all that. And I get it. Because in Hebrew fashion, God was assigned masculine type words to associate with him and to describe him. But don't be deceived. God is not an invisible man. God does not have reproductive organs. God just doesn't look like me, only invisible. God is God. God is spirit. And it took both male and female to represent who God really was and how God really was. And when this man and this woman met, they probably began to notice over time how different they were, especially physically. The Bible says they weren't ashamed because they were naked, because that's what happens before sin messes everything up. But I promise you that they noticed that they did not look alike. And the irony is that God doesn't do anything by accident. God does everything intentionally, on purpose, from our mother's womb on, and He's always sending messages, and He's always trying to help explain things to us through natural imagery. So He takes this man, He takes this woman, this male, this female, and he makes them very much alike. They're both human beings, but their bodies are different. And the prophetic imagery that God has on display is trying to explain the differences between male and female. The man with his reproductive organs was very external. Everything was just out there. What you see is what you get. It's there. You see it. It's external. And it would describe how the male would be. Very externally driven. Very moved by the things that he would see. Very exterior in how he would operate. The woman, God would prophesy over her body. Because everything was internal. And it would speak about how God would wire the woman very internally. And so we see from the very beginning that male and female is very differently. The man is very externally driven. The woman is very internally driven. So we understand that the man is very moved by what attracts his eye. What he sees is what moves him. It's what he thinks about. It's what he contemplates. It's what he ponders. It's what he bases actions and reactions on. What he sees with his eyes, it stimulates him. Generally speaking, the female is very different. She has internal drives, internal wiring. Instead of being physically driven, she's emotionally driven. Emotionally driven. A word out of context, it would sound like weakness, something that needs to be corrected. But in God context, a very powerful thing. Him and her are very different physically. And what they see physically, for some strange reason, attracts them to one another. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought about it. If you just use some human logic and take the, I don't know what you have to take out of the mix to really think about this, but just think about it. The things that a man is attracted to a woman, and a woman is attracted to a man, physically speaking, there is no explanation why you should ever be attracted to those things. It's wired into us. There is no reason why that a man should look at a woman's body or a woman should look at a man's body and say, I desire that, I'm attracted to that. That's not just a learned behavior somewhere. You take someone and you put them in an egg and hatch them on an island somewhere where a man who's never seen a woman, and then suddenly a woman shows up on a shipwreck, and I promise you he's going to be attracted to what he sees even though he's never seen that before. What you need to understand is that this is how God made it. It's not dirty. It's not nasty. It's not sin because a man is attracted to a woman's body or a woman is attracted to a man's body. That is how God wired humanity. It became the bait that would be put on the hook. What would be the first thing to get the male and the female to come together so they could eventually become one, and God could use that for a higher purpose? There's got to be some bait. There's got to be some attraction. That's the first thing that happened in the story of Jacob and Rachel. Boy meets girl and there's an attraction. She's lovely in form. He's in love. You'll find out between this Sunday and next Sunday that it was impossible for him to be in love if we define love the way God would define love. The way that I would define love after being married 35 years. When I compare it to when I was dating my wife, or even the first couple of years that we were married. The term love has it's been a progressive unveiling of what that word means. We still see today that men and women, a lot of the conflict, and when we do premarital counseling, our first premarital counseling session deals with the gender differences. Why? Because A lot of people sat on the other side of my desk and they come in, they're having marriage problems, and I'll say, what's going on? I always let the woman speak first, tell me what's happening. She'll tell me everything broken in him, and then I'll say, it's your turn, and he'll tell me everything broken in her, and basically all I'm ever hearing is gender differences. Somebody forgot to tell them they're not alike. They're differently, and because they're not alike doesn't mean the other one is broken. I have people tell me that all the time. My wife is broken. My husband's broken. There's something wrong. Our differences compel us to go to the extremes where men say, all women are crazy. And women say, all men are shallow. Women say men are shallow because we're not wired like them. We're not emotionally driven. We're not as sensitive to things in life as women are. We're external. Women seem crazy to men because men do things all the time without thinking about it. A, B, C, black, white, red, blue. We see it for what it is. We go for it. Boom, 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 boom. It works quite well for us. If a man hires another man to do a job, I'm speaking very generally, of course, he will come in and the man will say to the man, okay, you're hired. Here is your job description. Here's exactly what I want you to do. Boom, 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 boom. And he'll give him instructions. The man says, thank you, I can work with that. Woman hires a woman. She says, you're hired. And the other lady says, oh, what do you want me to do? And the boss will say, well, I don't know. Let's just feel our way through it. You say that to a man, and he's like, I'm out of here. I cannot feel my way through this job. I need a job description. Get out some crayons, a piece of paper, draw me a picture, show me what you want me to do. We're different. We're different. And it's what attracts us to each other. Not just the physical things, but it's even beyond the physical. I'm very attracted to my wife after all these years because of how different she is than me. She is so sensitive to things in life that I am not. And I don't know if I'm a very good pastor anyway. Just don't even respond. Leave me with my imaginations. But I'm telling you, I would be the worst pastor you could ever imagine if it was not for that woman using her sensitivities, her spidey senses, to make me aware of things that I'm missing. She'd go, well, you really need to check on so-and-so. And I'll say, why? She'd say, well, you heard what they said to you going out the door Sunday. They're having surgery and you need to check on them this week. It's like, all right. But just realize if I'm having surgery, please don't tell anyone. I want no visitors. I'm a man. She's like, you need to go check on so-and-so. You need to call them this week. They're going through some stuff. It's like, really? She said, yeah, they told you. It's like, oh. Yeah, I remember saying something about that. Now, what was their name again? She's sensitive about things. That really comes in handy. There's other areas of me being a pastor, I never ask her for her counsel because I need to go boom, 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 boom. I need to make decisions not based on touchy-feely or sensitivities. I need to make hard decisions based on hard facts, and that's what I'm good at as a man. Put the two together and they become one. Life really works. Now we're going through a thing in America where we've got several types of civil wars going on, and one of them is a gender war. Because we become so revelated in the 21st century that we finally figured out we need to take what God made and how God made it, and we need to dabble with it, and we need to recreate it. We've decided that men aren't sensitive enough, so men just need to make it their life's work to become more sensitive. And so now we have an agenda called the feminizing of the American man, trying to make him sensitive like a woman. That's our agenda. Let's make the man more sensitive. He's got to be more sensitive. If you've ever been in marriage counseling with me or you've come to Marriage on the Rock, you know that we spend a lot of time trying to convince husbands to be more understanding. Sit down, have some conversations, listen, pay attention. You may not can relate, but try to understand the best that you can. Respond. But we're on a mission in America to feminize the American male and make him more sensitive. And now we're getting exactly what we're creating. We're getting a generation of men in America that don't know how to cope anymore. They fall apart. The psychological studies been coming out of our last couple of wars is incredible concerning men and PTSD and how they handle things. We had men coming home from the great world wars, hand-to-hand combat, seeing bloody, barbaric things that we would not even be able to wrap our minds around. They came back, they had their struggles. Most of them, those men worked through it. They put their hands back to the plow, they picked back up, started supporting their families, and did what they had to do. Now we have men coming home from wars that are not trench warfare, rarely see the target they're shooting at. More people than not don't even see active combat. They're in green zones. They're in almost military police type scenarios and just patrolling. But just because of being in an environment where their securities are taken away and their comforts are taken away, men are coming home just complete wrecks and don't know how to cope anymore. You turn on TV anymore, and I was complaining about this a few weeks ago, just flipping around. I don't even know what I was watching, what channel it was on. I'm sure it was on one of the MTV channels because that's the channel that has the most wimpy guys on it. Have you ever noticed how some guys have big old strong muscles, but they're just total wimps? That was what was going on in this show. And these guys were sitting around. It was one of these shows with boys and girls, trying to steal each other's girlfriend or something. I don't know what was going on with them. But this one guy, you could tell he devoted his life to working out, man. I mean, this dude was a stud, and he was sitting there crying like a little girl because of something some girl on the show said to him. I just wanted to reach inside that TV and just start smacking him around. And we're trying to feminize men, turn them into women. And then we've got the whole feminist movement going on where we're trying to butch up all the girls, starting in the 60s when they burned their bras. With some, it wasn't a bad idea. With some, it was a terrible idea. Oh, come on. I tell you, I felt the presence of the Lord in that one. I know, Pastor Scott, you're being utterly ridiculous now. I know. Get on the drums, somebody, with me. I understand how it all starts. It starts because women aren't treated equal and they're not getting equal pay. I know our history. I was birthed in a lot of this history. It was the time I was born in. Forget fair. I don't care about fair. Justice is what I care about, and a lot of injustice going on in America with women. But see, the thing is, God has a plan. He has a plan with racial tensions, with gender tensions, with all kinds of tensions. And if you look back at history, you see that God is on course, and things are getting better and better and better and better. His kingdom is coming. His kingdom is coming. His kingdom is coming. And the only thing that messes it up is when a liberal side of a culture gets involved and starts deciding we know a better way to do it. Next thing you know, racial tensions become at an all-time high, and gender tensions become at an all-time high, because we know how to do it. We need to butch up the women, and we need to feminize the men. And we wonder why we're losing our natural attractions for the opposite sex. There's a lot going on. Jacob sees Rachel, and it's classic boy meets girl. There's an attraction there. And the attraction that God created, and I understand, attraction can go into realms of lust that is hard to harness and contain. But that aside, being physically attracted is designed by God. Men usually fall in love with women because they're physically attracted to them. Women usually fall in love with men because they're emotionally attracted to them. It's a good system. I understand, ladies, that you want your guy to look good. My wife has been the case in point that women want a good-looking man. I, above all men, get that. Oh, shut up. We're attracted to somebody opposite to us. So when we find ourselves in a culture where we're being attracted to people exactly like us, it means that something is breaking down in the system. Something's breaking down in the natural order of how God made human beings to be attracted to each other. I'm trying to be as sensitive with this as I can, but remember, I am a man. Rachel and Jacob are falling in love. And Jacob proves that when man is that attracted to a woman, he'll do anything to get her. He worked 7 years. He ended up working 14 years. It's played out different in my lifetime. If a boy is very attracted to a girl, and he's so attracted to what he sees because she's lovely in form, he may not work 14 years for her, but he'll sure feed her some lines. And he'll sure promise her the moon. See, I warn my daughter about this all the time. I hated that she wasn't in here today because of teaching, but her and I have these conversations all the time. I say, baby, let me tell you about boys because I was a boy. Let me tell you, when they come up to you and they're young and they're teenagers and especially and around that age and college age and stuff, let me tell you, whatever a boy tells you, whatever it is, just assume it's a lie. And I talk very real with Hannah, more than I'm going to talk real with you today, just to be quite honestly about it. I make very clear to her, not always. There will be the day that you will meet a boy and he will be very different from the other boys. But you need to assume that most boys, what they want from you is not a lifelong commitment. They want 3 seconds. My daughter comes home heartbroken. I picked her up a few weeks ago and she was quiet. Please keep these stories in here. I don't want to pay her. This story will cost me a lot. And her eyes are watering. It's like, what's wrong, baby? Same old familiar story. Another little girl that she knew that was her friend, 15 years old, lost her virginity. I said, baby, well, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that upsets you. And she said, but Daddy, you don't understand. It's these guys. That's all they think about. That's all they talk about. They have little clubs and they have little bets. Nothing's changed since the 80s movies. Nothing's changed. Maybe worse. She gets very upset because clearly those little girls' daddies have not had those kind of conversations and said, let me tell you about boys. Doesn't mean that all boys are bad. Boys are great. The only thing wrong with most teenage boys is that their hormones are completely out of control. They don't know how to harness them yet. A teenage boy can't go 3 seconds without having a sexual thought. I was one, I know. And I was a good boy. Wasn't like your sons. I was a good one. It takes time. That's why fathers have to not just speak into daughters' lives, but fathers have to speak into sons' lives, and mothers have to speak into sons' lives and teach them how to be gentlemen. And we need to teach them how to harness and control all these feelings of attraction that they have so that something doesn't happen that we can't reverse. Little girls are emotionally wired. And little girls will do anything for little boys if they think the little boy loves them because they are in love. They're feeling something emotional here. Well, those of you who are adults agree with me that when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, you don't have a clue what love is yet. That's why there's many words in the Bible that is translated as love. There's eros, which means romantic love, or it literally can mean puppy love. That's a common love. It's the love that most young people know. My point is that we want to drive to this point of understanding love, because if we don't understand love, we can't understand God. If we don't understand what God was doing with male, female, coming together, the two becoming one, falling in love, taking a journey together where eros turns into agape, an unconditional, grace-driven love, and that cuts covenant together, we will never understand what it is that God is wanting to do in us and with us, because we won't understand covenant if we don't understand what marriage is. We won't understand two becoming one, God and man. We won't understand our differences, but our similarities. We'll miss the whole plan of God if we don't understand. Get a grip on your love handles. Get a grip on love. Get a grip on sex. Get a grip on relationships. I thought it was a pretty witty sermon title, Love Handles. Something you can get a grip on. Love. Thank you for that. Whoever just tried to start an 80s clap, but it failed. Physical and emotional attraction can take you to the place of falling in love, or it can take you to a place of being scared to death because of where it has now taken you. Taking you to a realm of a sexually transmitted disease, take you into a realm of a teenage pregnancy. That's what just attraction, when we leave it in that realm, just attraction, that's where it can take you. It can take you into places where there's no reverse. Marriages that happen because of an attraction, but it never went deeper. Now we have broken marriage. We have broken relationships. Things break with family members. Things break with friends. Things breaks with God, all because of what's going on in our relationships. It's all broken, and there's a ripple effect because we never tried to understand love beyond just the attraction. Just the attraction. But when the attraction does lead to true love, oh my goodness. You know, it's interesting, and it surprised me a little bit, but then I got to thinking about it biblically especially. But I was reading how that most psychologists that are also historians say that falling in love was not really a concept introduced into culture till about the mid-1600s. Because most cultures were like Hebrew cultures. They were arranged marriages. Most people that got married, they were not even remotely in love. It was an agreement made between families. And that was such a cultural norm that they say it was really about the mid-1600s before some of that began to change, and how boys and girls began to meet and get to know each other changed, and something deeper began to happen, and they began to fall in love. Today's journey of falling in love. It's easier for me just to read this from one psychologist. Like a hunger, love is a drive. The other person becomes a goal in your life, and you may go through many emotions as you focus on winning him or her. We tend to identify love most often with euphoria, but that is hardly the only emotion we feel. We feel ecstasy, compassion, surprise, anxiety, anger, jealousy, despair. We swing like a kite from high to low, tied to another person by this passion we call love. It's the single biggest mystery to humanity. What is this love thing? If you Google love and just say, what is love, Google? All the sites will start popping up, and the first thing they'll all say is love is not an emotion. Everyone's agreeing this is much more than emotion. It's very emotional. but it can't be placed into a category of just being an emotion. It's life's deepest mystery. And the journey of finding love and falling in love is the journey that consumes most of what we do and why we do it in life. Love is a mystery. I love this guy here. He writes such good stuff about life. Love is a mystery. It can't be defined as an emotion or understood even in how it originates or sustains. Would you agree with that? I've talked about that often, especially at Marriage on the Rock with our own situation, because when we met in college in Florida, I was attracted to her first of all. And I won't share that story because it embarrasses her. We're a little more open with these things at Marriage on the Rock. But all I can tell you, when I was walking down the sidewalk at college behind that woman, I just knew I was falling in love. There was an attraction. I'm not going to lie about it. No sense you guys lying about it. No sense us acting like this isn't how it works. It is how it works. There was something about her that attracted me. And I wanted to get to know her. And we got to know her, and we went out on some dates. And I'll never forget the first time she asked me out. Am I lying? I went to pick her up at work, and maybe it was the second day. I took her to a Res Band concert, which is why I liked having Glenn Kaiser from Res Band here last year for Biker Sunday, or 2 years ago, because we have some history. I went to pick her up at work one day. She had a job after college, and she asked me out to go see an officer and a gentleman. That's how old we are. Officer and a gentleman. It was in color. They turned her vision, didn't it? It was in color. Something started happening. That's what this writer talks about. He says, we just can't understand how it originates or even how it sustains itself. We don't understand how to think about this. And I didn't know what was going on with me, but something progressively was happening, and it was starting to scare me a little bit. I was feeling things I never felt. I was used to the attraction, male attracted to female. I was used to that. But I wasn't used to something deeper. It was the first time in my life something deeper started happening to me emotionally, and I was feeling everything from fear to euphoria and all in between. And I've shared the story that I walked her back to her dorm room one night, and we were actually out. There were lakes all around. Lakeland is full of lakes, and our campus was no different. It had lakes all through it and around it, and we were sitting on a bench out at one of the lakes outside her dorm, and I just broke up with her. I just said, I really can't do this anymore. I went back to my dorm room, and I tossed and turned all night long, the most miserable night of my life. I was waiting on her when she came out of her dorm the next morning for class. I was waiting on her. I said, about last night, can we forget that ever happened? Just forget it. Let's get things back where it was. I was falling in love, and I didn't know what to do with it. He says, we don't understand love, how it originates and how it sustains itself. It can't be scientifically measured or physiologically explained. History bears out the progression of love, whether it's between two humans or with God even. It seemingly has no boundaries established by sanity or reasoning. It fulfills the soul, and at the same time, it's irrational and exacerbating, and you all know that. It produces the greatest joys and the greatest pains in life. It is the one search in life that makes all other searches pale. And when the smoke clears, the euphoric and very complicated thing we call love seems no less than a divine energy surpassing basic human physiology. That's why I love this writer. He says you can analyze it, you can explore it, you can try to understand it, you're not going to do it. He says when the dust clears, all you can say is that this whole thing we call love is a divine energy that is bigger than our human physiology. We just come out of this "Does God exist?" season. You tell me how a simple cell in a mud puddle evolves to this place of falling in love. From the physical to the emotional to security and dependency to the changes of life to enduring hardships and hurt, all the way to the point of saying, I just can't imagine life without you, to the two becoming one. It's the progression, the journey of love, from simple attractions of lovely in form or a young lady falling for a man. It's interesting how that, and we've talked about this in years gone by, you'll see this good-looking woman, and she'll be with this ugly guy, and it's like, how in the moon did that happen? And we would all say, man, she could have had me. What's her problem? When we were young. I don't say that anymore. Just to be clear over there. Found out that it's usually a situation where two people were in a scenario where they just got to talk a lot. In school or workplace, something, they just got to talk. She was so good looking that she intimidated all the guys. This guy was so ugly, he wasn't intimidated. He knew he didn't have a shot, so he would have like this good conversation with her, and she emotionally was being attracted to that. He talks to me. He talks about important things to me. He wants to know how I feel. See, ugly guys will do that. Ugly guys are sensitive. Guys like me, we're just not. I'm getting worried over there. I haven't seen a smile on that woman's face since I started this. And y'all got an extra bedroom or an extra dog house I could borrow? Wrapping this up for today before we plow a little deeper next week. Just want you to know that love is a God idea. Male, female, the parts of our bodies that attract us to one another sexually. It's a God idea. It's not the devil. It's not sin. It's not a sin to want to have sex. When you're young, it's all you think about. You can't wait. God does that. God puts these things in the system to draw us to one another in hopes that though that we will fall into deeper places of desire that goes beyond just physical attraction. From male and female, to the physical attractions, to the desire to have sex, all the way to the point where you fall in love and cut covenant with that one person. And the two become one, cannot imagine life without one another. God designed it all to take it to that point in hopes that we would understand what it is that God wants with us. See, we're very attracted to God. He's a healer. He's a provider. He can fix things that breaks in our life. He'll listen to us when we've got troubles and problems. We can go with him and pray. And we're very attracted to God. The average Christian probably cannot say, though, that they have fallen in love with God. They've stayed at that point of where God is lovely in form. I love the form He has, the form of taking care of me and fixing me and prospering me and blessing me. I like what God can do for me. But God's trying to get us to a place of understanding of what it means to go past just the euphoria and the romance and the goosebumps and the butterflies and come to a place of where there's something that was happening in us like what's happening in me with her. It's like, where's this coming from? It's like, it's more than just wanting things from God. It's just, I want God. I want to be in His presence. I want to learn about Him. I want to understand God more, because that's what happens when you start falling in love. And God's like, yes, yes, yes. That's why I love the Song of Solomon. It's such a dirty book. I love it. If it was translated in 21st century, you couldn't even read it. And she sees the king, King Solomon, and King Solomon sees the Shulamite woman in the field working, and she just doesn't think she's that pretty, and he just thinks that she's a brick house, and he's attracted to her, and she's attracted to him, and they finally get together, and she's like, oh, let me kiss you with the kisses of my mouth. Like, where else are you going to kiss from, right? And this is right after he said, oh, and your teeth remind me of a horse. Actually, they were well-shorn sheep. Your teeth look like sheep, and your neck looks like a tower. And Boy, the way they talked back then. It doesn't sound that seductive to me, but whatever. She wants to kiss him because she's very attracted to him. He's the king. He looks good in that carriage. He says, no. He says, till true love awakens, you ain't getting none of this. It's literally what happened in the story. He said, kisses are intimate. They're personal. He said, till you come to a place of where we are falling in love, this ain't going to happen. Boy, has things ever changed. Now we're in a culture where having sex just isn't a big deal. In fact, there's something wrong with you if you think it is a big deal. Later on in the story, she's in her bedchamber. Now she's going to play head games with him. He comes and he knocks on the door and he says, I think you are falling in love with me. I am definitely falling in love with you. He sticks his hand through the latch. She smells the aroma and the fragrance of the perfumes on him, and she knows that it's him. He wants to come in now, and he wants to be intimate. It's time to move this thing into a covenant realm. Now she's going to play head games, and she's saying, I'm already clean. Should I get up and soil my feet by coming and open the door? The translation of all that is like, dude, I'm saved. I've got my life insurance. I've got my hell insurance. I'm going to heaven. I got my gold ticket. I've got all I need. I'm attracted to you and romantically involved in you on some levels because of what you can do for me. I'm not wanting a covenant here. I'm not wanting to marry you. She's playing head games with him. He's wanting to cut covenant. Everything God did, male, female, physical attraction, sexual attraction, wanting the opposite of me, opposites attracting. Knowing there's a lot of warfare that comes with that. A lot of maintenance. A lot of work comes with opposites. But as they fall in love, they begin to cleave. They begin to find love that breaches the realms of deep security. Deep oneness where I can't imagine my life without you anymore. I don't even know how to separate our lives anymore. Will you cut covenant? That's what God wants. I want to grow old with my wife. It's my single biggest goal at this juncture. Knowing that, look, let's be real. I don't live in that much of an imaginary world. I realize, yes, of course, obviously, I still look good, but I don't look as good as when she met me. Your opinion on that? I had long flowing hair. This was before Fabio. I was the original Fabio. Daniel, I was never ripped like you are. This guy works out constantly. But I was playing college basketball, and boy, they had us in the weight room, and I definitely looked better than I do now. That's all I can tell you. My wife thinks that sometimes that I don't think she's beautiful. I don't even know as a guy how to explain it to her. It's like the beauty. Obviously, she was beautiful when I met her and wanted her, and then things progress and they deepen, and you fall in love, and a person becomes so beautiful to you that it's so much beyond the peripheral, it's so much beyond the physical, you don't even know how to separate those things anymore. My wife is the most beautiful human being on the planet to me. I want to grow old with her. I want to sit in side-by-side rocking chairs or one of those big wide rocking chairs that holds two people. The older we get, the wider that chair is going to probably have to be. It's just saying. I want to share. I want to have history together. I want to build memories together. When Hannah leaves and goes to college and then goes wherever I'm already planning an empty nest syndrome that like you've never seen before. You won't be able to stand me for 6 months. I'll be up here crying like a little girl, and everything I do, I'll probably just have a breakdown. The only thing that's going to get me through it is because the two of us are going to go through it together. If sickness shows up in one of us, we're going through it together. I got through what I got through last year because that woman was with me. The two became one. I couldn't have made it through that by myself without just falling apart. Two becoming one. Here's where I want to leave this today, if I may. And we pick it up next week and we plow deeper into what love is. I want to show you a video. And I'm glad you're here, Tracy. You've probably wondered, is that video ever going to be used? And I'm sorry that Clinton couldn't be here today. And I told him, I said, I'm using this video. He said, oh, man, thanks. And I'm sorry I can't be there. Most of you know Clinton's family had just a terrible tragedy this week. Had a niece that was literally murdered down in North Carolina. It's been a hard, hard week. And they're taking people back to airports and stuff today. Clinton's done a couple videos with his songs. This was the first one, and the star of our video is sitting right back there. And it encapsulates everything that I just finished this sermon with, the heart and the emotion of it all. And when this song is over and when this video is over, you can consider yourself dismissed. I love this song. It's called Baby, I Need Your Love.
Earthquakes, hurricanes, baby, I need your love. Tsunamis crashing my brain, baby, I need your love. I feel a rumble under my feet, baby, I need your love. I can't sit still in my seat, baby, I need your love. I've been looking for another kingdom, baby, I need your love. Where foolish men don't have dominion, baby, I need your love. They're only shadows of things to come, baby, I need your love. You can escape, no need to run, baby, I need your love. Baby, I need your love. Don't want to face the world by myself, baby, I need your love. Can't think of anything else I need. They're watching us from the sky, baby, I need your love. But I ain't got nothing to hide, baby, I need your love. There's so few that we can trust, baby, I need your love. All this world is dust and rust, baby, I need your love. Baby, I need your love. Don't want to face the world by myself, baby, I need your love. Can't think of anything else I need. Maybe we can find ourselves a two-room shack. No connection, only one direction, looking back. Baby, I need your love. Baby, I need your love. Oh, baby, I need your love. Baby, I need your love. Oh, baby, I need your love. Don't wanna face the world by myself. Baby, I need your love. Can't think of anything else. Baby, I need your love. Don't wanna face the world by myself. Baby, I need your love. Can't think of anything else I need.